Welcome to episode 158 of The Rant. I'm your host, Jacob Zanola, with co-host Blake Cowell, both of us with Cubs Insider. So it's not, and I said it last time as well, it's not the Evan and John that you get teased. You get something better. Well, different, I should say, in Jacob and Blake.
Oh, they're
I
gonna
like
hate
to think,
that.
I know, right? Yeah, no, I said that. I knew it would annoy Evan. We'll get a text about that later. No, but Evan and John are both busy, so we're with you guys again today to discuss a series recap, a series preview, another Cubs series win. We haven't talked in about a week and a half. It's been busy, been very busy. We were just looking. This is the first Cubs off day since June 3rd. This is their 26 games in 27 days schedule. A brutal schedule for this team, but they're doing well. We're halfway through June. But more importantly, Blake, how are we doing on this lovely Monday morning?
Cubs have won 3 of 4 this weekend, man. So I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, I just actually traveled 3 times to Chicago, back in the last week. So I am physically and mentally exhausted still from all the traveling, but got to cover a Sky Fever game, got to go to a Cubs game, and got to go on the CHGO podcast yesterday with Cody Del Mendo. So it's been a lot of fun, but I needed this off day just as much as the Cubs did, I think.
Yeah, no, I feel that. We were talking, and I'm like, man, I'm so like, I just slammed. The schedule was busy. And I'm like, when do the Cubs play today? I got to get ready for that. And you're like, they're off. And I'm like, okay, we get one day of breather, and then we're back into it because this is their only off day for the next 2 weeks. Their next off day is 2 weeks from today. So busy schedule, and we're just covering the team. We're not actually the ones playing. So it's good that they all get an off day to rest, hopefully enjoy Chicago. And day after Father's Day, I'm sure that'll be nice for the. I loved that they had all the kids come out on the line for first pitch and stuff. That was so cool. That was. I didn't see any other team do that, and if they did, I missed it. But I know the Cubs were the first one, being one of the earlier games in the day. That was cool. That was really cool to see. And Justin Turner's kid, like Bo, looks so much like him. It's so funny. Like,
Bright red hair, man.
dude, it's so fun. And the rest of the comments are like, yeah, you can tell he's his dad. It was just like, oh, it's so cool. Let's get into it. Enough filibustering. We got a big series to talk about against the Pirates. Pirates came into town, divisional opponent, not really a rival, not really a big stakes series, but it was a weak opponent that you had to beat. The Pirates have one of the worst offenses in baseball, although they do have a solid starting rotation, and it showed. The Cubs didn't do great offensively, but they won the series 3-1, and that's really what matters. I was talking with a friend. One of my best friends is a Pirates fan, and he was like, hey, you guys didn't sweep us, take that. And I said, and he also said, the run differential, the Cubs only outscored the Pirates by 2. And my comeback was, at the end of the year, yeah, and it's a little worrisome. We'll get into that in a minute. But at the end of the year, it doesn't matter if we win a game by 20 or by 5. The Cubs won. And that's all that matters when you're trying to get into the postseason, when you're racking up these divisional wins. Before we go game by game, was there any big takeaways you had from this series against Pittsburgh?
I mean, the biggest takeaway, you got to give credit to this bullpen and starting pitching. I don't want to take away from the starting pitching too much, but I want to highlight the bullpen. They only gave up 1 earned run this entire series. I think it was Brad Keller on Friday. I think it was Brad Keller on Thursday. Either way, it was 1 earned run. This bullpen's been incredible. The no good, very bad, worst bullpen ever, Cubs bullpen, has been really, really good. And if you look back to the middle of May, I think they're around like a 1-point ERA. Like they're that good. Everyone's pitching lights out. Chris Flexen and Drew Pomeranz still have a 0.00 ERA. I know I've been pushing the Drew Pomeranz narratives, and then watching the game yesterday, I said, wait a second, Chris Flexen also has a 0.00 ERA. So they've pitched, I think they both pitched 17 in the third innings and have yet to give up an earned run. You look at those guys. You look at Caleb Thielbar, who started off as, we didn't know how long he'd be on the team. We thought he'd be one of the first guys to probably get DFA'd, and he's stuck around. I mean, I think he's probably stuck around the longest if you look at this Cubs bullpen. I mean, Ryan Presley's still on the team. Caleb Thielbar is still on the team. Are there any other starting bullpen players that are still here from opening day?
Keller. I mean, Keller wasn't on the Japan series, but that was just to save a roster spot, and then IL moves. But yeah, so I would say those are the 3 main guys that have just been.
Because Palencia was called up. So he
Yeah.
wasn't even on the team. Hodge is hurt, and hopefully he will get him back soon. I want to get into an interesting debate about that here soon because that'll be a big topic of discussion here soon. I think he pitched a simulated game yesterday. Shout out Rich Beasterfield covering the
Yeah, Rich.
Arizona crew. But this bullpen's been awesome, man. The starting pitching is giving you chances to win, like we've been saying now for months. Like even watching the game yesterday, Colin Ray, you're watching the first inning and you're like, here we go. Like this is the end. And Colin Ray had 2 bad starts against the Reds, but outside of that, he's been still very good. I mean, yesterday he goes six innings pitched, 2 earned runs, and 4 strikeouts. His ERA is under 4. It's a 3.84. And even though 3.84 isn't spectacular, it's worth more than the $5 million for paying him. I mean, I'll say that much for a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball for a 3.84 ERA, worth way more than $5 million.
Oh, for sure. What MLB.com gives for their game day, I have that pulled up to get the score and the box scores of every game. The top performers of every game, it gives 3. The Cubs starting pitcher is in every single one, which normally a starting pitcher is going to be there, but the player of the game was several times the starting pitcher, especially Matthew Boyd, who we'll talk about in a minute. But this whole starting rotation has been fantastic. And you mentioned Ray. After that first inning, I'm like, here we go again. And I mean, everybody, it seemed, in any chat forum, anybody I talked to that was watching the Cubs game was like, here we go. We're in it again. Ray's going to have a stinker. He didn't. And that's the important thing with starting pitching. We don't need shutouts every time. I was talking to a pitcher the other day, and I was like, what's the goal coming out? Because sure, you want to get a shutout. And he said, the most important thing is keeping my team in the game, making sure that when I leave, my team still has a chance to win. Whether that's they're down by 2, whether that's tied, whatever, they have a chance to win. That's the most important job other than eating those innings and staying competitive. Cubs starting pitchers did that every single time. The one game that the Cubs lost this series, Paul Skeens threw. You can't really fault him for that, especially when the Pirates won in the 10th inning. The Cubs kept them in it. So
they had a chance to win. They had a chance to win that game too.
They did have a chance to win. And so that's where last week we had Ben Brown, and he went toe-to-toe with Tarek Skubal. And then you have Cade Horton and Paul Skeens, one of the most exciting matchups of this not even young season anymore, which is crazy to say because we're already in June, of this almost halfway through season. And he went toe-to-toe with Paul Skeens. Well, Horton isn't as good as Skeens. Same with Brown and Skubal. They have talent. They have the potential that we're seeing there, and they kept them in the game. Even though this Cubs offense is slumping, they're still winning. And that's the important part. When these runs aren't being scored and you're just winning by 1 run, it's a win. A win is a win, and it doesn't matter in the end. In the end of the season, if you win by 20 runs or if you win by 3, it doesn't matter. And we're staying competitive, and they're staying close, and the offense is, a lot of people are slumping. Like Tucker, I saw his bat speed is down considerably, whether that's a hand injury or not. I believe he was off yesterday.
He was.
Okay, yeah. I mean, everybody's kind of slumping in some aspect offensively. So the pitching stepped up, and the pitching's like, okay, it's our time to shine and just throw 4 straight gems. There wasn't any bad pitching in that whole series by the Cubs, and either by the Pirates, which, like, the Pirates have a solid rotation, which is sad that that Cherington and the Nutting and everybody in Pittsburgh haven't constructed a better offense, because this rotation's solid. And before Jared Jones went out for the year, it was going to be even better. But I mean, they have potential. And so that's why I'm like not too down about the slumping offense. And they're still getting the wins, but it's something to watch, especially as they go into a strong and red hot, coming off a series win, Milwaukee Brewers, who are coming into town tomorrow on Tuesday.
Yeah, the Cubs have yet to lose a game against an NL Central opponent, or they've yet to lose a series against an NL Central opponent. That's how good they've been against their own division. I think if they were to split this weekend, wouldn't have been the end of the world, but you would have had a little sour taste in your mouth, especially after coming off series losses to the Phillies and the Tigers, because this disgusting narrative that the Cubs can't beat good teams is like coming around for some reason. And I don't really get it, because when they were so good in April and they were beating all these good teams, it was, the Cubs are better than those teams, which I think they are better than still a handful of these teams. Yeah. But now that their offense is slumping and some of these good teams are getting the better of them, this weird narrative's getting pushed around that they can't be good
Season's
teams.
over.
I don't know.
Season's over.
Season's over, but it was good to see them win 3 out of 4 against the Pirates. Obviously, Matthew Boyd, similar to Colin Ray, he's worth more than $14.5 million for paying him this year. Dude's got a sub-3 ERA, shoves every time he goes out there. I think the only bad start he really had was at Cincinnati. I think he gave up like 3 runs in the first and still ended up going like 4 innings and giving up 4 runs. So it wasn't even like it was a total blow-up game. Like we've seen Ben Brown have a couple blow-up games in his season. And I think Ben Brown's scheduled to pitch against the Brewers. So there'll be a good measuring stick to see where he's at because he dominates that team, but he's been pretty slow this year. But Matthew Boyd's been awesome. The pitching's been awesome. The bullpen's been awesome. And I want to shout out this guy that Cubs fans hate. And I've seen both sides of it, but there's a point where I have to say something, Jacob. I have to say something. And it's Mr. F-150 himself, Ryan Pressly.
Yeah.
Because since April 1st, in 28 appearances, he has gone scoreless in 27 of them. The only appearance he's given up an earned run in those 28 appearances was that big blow-up game against the Giants in extra innings. I mean,
that's it.
The optics aren't great. The optics aren't always going to look good. He'll strike out 2 guys, walk a couple, and then get a pop out, or get 2 guys out, give up a single, give up a double, and then get a ground ball. But a scoreless frame is a scoreless frame. A scoreless outing is a scoreless outing. I don't care how you get it. He's finding a way to produce for you. And now that he's not even in the 9th inning role, why do I care? Because when Hodge goes down, which he did, and when other guys slump here and there, and when other guys they're just not available. Like Danny Palencia wasn't available yesterday. Ryan Pressly comes in, I believe, the 8th inning and locks it down. All right, it might have been the 9th actually, and gets his scoreless outing again. So I got to give credit to him because for some reason, just because he's not a closer anymore, and just because he had a really rough 1, 2, 3 games, and everyone thought Jed blew this trade for Juan Bello. I don't know what he's up to these days. I don't get it. So I wanted to give some credit to Ryan Pressly. He's just another, and again, I don't think he's getting enough credit because all these other guys have been just as good. Like Danny Palencia, just as good. He got pitched 3 of 4 games this weekend, and 2 of them were saves.
Yeah.
And then you look at Brad Keller, Thielbar, Pomeranz, Flexen. The list goes on and on. Danny Palencia has been the most impressive. Yeah, Peyton. I mean, he's right up there. You could say anyone's been the most impressive, and there's an argument for him because you have 2 guys with 0-0 ERAs. You have Ryan Pressly, who's given up one earned run or 1 bad outing in 28 tries. And you still have Porter Hodge coming back. So I guess it's a good segue to this, Jacob, because Peyton brings up Danny Palencia and Porter Hodge is coming back. When Porter Hodge is healthy, does he get the 9th inning back from Danny Palencia?
I think you keep Palencia in there until further notice. Until he struggles, you have to give, like, he's earned that. Hodge got hurt. Not that it's his fault, not that it's Hodge's fault that he got hurt, but I think back to, this is not anywhere near the same, but it's the first analogy that comes to mind. Wally Pipp. And, okay, cool. So he got hurt, and all of a sudden, he's out. I believe it was Joe DiMaggio. Odds are I'm wrong, and I'm making a fool of myself. By the way, there's some good Yankee all of a sudden took over for the one day that he was hurt. Did amazing.
I think it was Lou Gehrig.
Was it Lou Gehrig? Okay, yeah. So see, I was wrong, but both good Yankees.
We're piecing it together though. I get the sentiment though.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not saying that Porter Hodge will never close again. I'm not saying Daniel Palencia is one of the greatest baseball players of all time. But he took that spot and he's done well. There's no reason to be like, hey, we asked you to take this 9th inning role. You've done really well. But who cares? You're out of there. I would think maybe they share time, and I think that's perfectly reasonable to go off and on to give them both a little bit of rest because this bullpen's been worked a lot. As good as the starting pitching has been, the length hasn't been there every single day like you would like it to, especially because it's going to be, if they want to make a long run of the postseason, the arms are going to get tired. So you could easily work both of those in. I wonder, could they go to a 6-man rotation when Imanaga gets back? I don't know if they will, but I wouldn't be against it. Especially when the trade deadline rolls around, then we'll have more discussions. That's in a little over a month, although did trade season already start? We'll get into that later, maybe tonight. I don't know. But you can't move Hodge into the 9th spot, in my opinion, unless it's sharing a role with Palencia. Basically, I don't want Palencia to lose that gig because he hasn't done anything to deserve getting kicked out of the role that he was kind of thrown into. And the trust wasn't necessarily there, at least for me. It wasn't there because he hadn't shown the command, he hadn't shown the control to not just walk everybody. And they threw him into the fire. He did really well. He's earned at least keep me there until I struggle, and then quick hook, put in Hodge, or just share time. Like you said, they have so many guys that could work for Peyton's most impressive out of the bullpen. They have so many of those guys that it's kind of neat because after the first 2 weeks, I'll admit even I was like, bullpen isn't shaking up too good. They had blown several leads. I think it was the Tokyo series. That's what I'm going to blame it on. Is just that messed everybody up. And so I'm going to blame it on that, whether it was that or not. I have to think that was part of it. But either way, everyone settled in well. Moral of the story, I don't think you can put Hodge into the closer spot right away because he was also kind of struggling, whether he was hurt or not, probably. But his peripherals coming off of the injury aren't going to be too great.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat just for the main reason you mentioned of Palencia hasn't done anything to warrant giving that up. And what I think Danny Palencia has actually done, and really Jed Hoyer's, I would like to think is maybe thinking this, Danny Palencia is saving him from having to go out and execute another big trade for a bullpen guy because I mentioned it with fielders, but it goes for the same for the bullpen. If you look at the back end of the bullpen of Danny Palencia gets the 9th, Porter Hodge gets the 8th, and then Brad Keller gets the 7th, that's a pretty solid 7, 8, 9. I mean, I'm taking that up against a lot of different bullpens in Major League Baseball. And then you throw in all the other assets that we mentioned, like Pomeranz, Flexen, guys that are going to go get you a specialty out. Like Pomeranz is going to face a couple lefties and get them out. Or same with Caleb Thielbar. So, I mean, I'm with you because if you put Hodge back in the 9th, then you put Palencia in the 8th, and now you're messing with more dynamics than one. And Hodge has handled the 8th before, so he's used to it. He did it a lot last year before Alzolay really blew up and left, and then they were searching for answers before he was thrown into the 9th or into the 8th. And I think Palencia is a lot. I mean, you can watch it when he pitches. When he comes in, no one's really worried. No one's really biting their nails. It has to take a lot of things to go wrong for Palencia for him to blow a save, which is a good thing. It's not like when Hector Neris would come in and you knew with 2 outs, it's like, well, he could easily walk the bases loaded. Like, like that's a possibility. And with Danny Palencia, it's not. It's like, well, he's going to throw 101 miles per hour at the dude's eye level, and we're going to hope he swings at it or something like that. But as far as the deadline goes, I don't see a huge need for a bullpen arm right now because is it always good to have an embarrassment of riches like the Dodgers did preseason? Absolutely. But it's still starting pitching first and foremost at this trade deadline for the Cubs. But yeah, I'm the same way. I wanted to hear your thoughts on it, but something I was tossing around as Hodge looks like he'll be back. Maybe not this series, but maybe by the weekend.
Pretty soon, and Imanaga should be back. I believe it's lining up to be next week in St. Louis. Wanted to shout out Matthew Boyd again. I know we've talked about him, but I wanted to talk about him again for just a second. Last outing was, and I don't think I'm missing an outing in between here. Maybe I am, but I believe his last outing was in Philadelphia. I'll fact check myself on that real quick. But yeah, okay. So his last outing was against Philadelphia when he had a perfect game into what I believe was the 6th inning. And then here, he only gave up 1 hit all outing against Pittsburgh in the 1st inning. So he went perfect game until the 6th, and then he went home run in the 1st inning to Andrew McCutchen, and then no hits the rest of the way. So just really impressive how, well, the very end or the very beginning aren't perfect. They're still pretty good because 2 runs or 1 run, I mean, okay. And like the Cubs offense has enough, they should be able to beat that. And they did eventually, although it took extra innings. But either way, he's been one of the most underrated signings of this offseason. He now has a 1.17 whip and a 2.79 ERA. He's not walking anybody. His 5.8% walk rate is in the 82nd percentile. His chase rate and average exit velocity, like he's not giving up much hard contact. He's getting a lot of chase. He's giving up fly balls, but when you have that defensive outfield, it doesn't really matter that much. Like it's not the end of the world. So there's a lot of strengths there. And he's the X factor for this team. Jameson Tyone said it before the season. He said, if he's healthy, he's an X factor. And that's what we heard from a lot of guys. He hasn't pitched this. He hasn't been this healthy in a long, long time. And now he looks like ace material. Not saying he is our ace, but He is the best pitcher on the staff right now. I don't really think there's a question about that. When Imanaga comes back, it's probably Imanaga. But if you said Boyd's our ace, even with Imanaga back, I'm not going to say no. Like, I would have to think about it for a bit and look at the stats. And I'm still probably going Matthew Boyd. He's been dominant, especially at Wrigley Field. He's probably the most confident of any of the starters when they go out on the mound. It's him and then Jameson Taillon, who, and once again, we can confirm quality starts are still good. They are
Still
still
good.
good. He
They'll
had
never be
another one.
bad.
They'll
Get another
never be
one.
bad. Never be bad, despite what the media tells you. The quality starts are good. And he had another one. Boyd is racking up the quality starts. And then obviously we have Cade Horton and Colin Ray in its Pittsburgh series as well. I think that wraps it up with how strong the pitching was, because that was the big thing is the offense wasn't that impressive against Pittsburgh, which is okay when you have this pitching. It's just amazing how the Cubs didn't really spend too much money on this pitching staff, but the Tyler Zombo, the Tommy Hotovy, the Casey Jacobson pitching lab is dominating, and that bullpen. You could go on and on and on. I was talking to some Red Sox guys yesterday, and I was like, "Hey, Drew Pomeranz still isn't giving up a run," and they're like, "Didn't you guys sign him like a month ago?" And I was like, "Yeah." Chris Flexen, didn't you guys bring him in like 50 days ago? Yeah. Still haven't given up a run. It's just incredible. Both these guys are dominant options that Drew Pomeranz almost gave up a run the other day, but he was able to get out of it. Chris Flexen, can give you several innings. So once you acquire at least one starter at the deadline, and once Imanaga is back, you'll have Brown, Ray, and Flexen possibly out of the bullpen, probably out of the bullpen, that can give you innings. And that is so valuable. Because what if Boyd does have the inevitable bad start? I don't think he's going to have a 2.7 ERA this whole season. If he does, great. Clip this, mock me. I'm the
Jed's
happiest
league.
guy on earth. Right. Jed's league, that's totally fine. But when he doesn't, when he has to go a short start, when Horton, who's still a rookie and still on a semi-pitch count, has to go 4-something innings, then you have the guys in the back of the pen. You don't have to go through 4 different relievers and then waste your bullpen. You can go to 2 guys to cover that second half of the game. And that is so valuable, especially with how many games this team is playing in the span of a month.
Yeah, definitely. And the Cubs offense struggled against Pittsburgh, but a lot of that I think has to do still with Wrigley Field not being a hitter-friendly park this year. And I was talking about it yesterday on CHGO, talking about, does that change Craig Counsell's managing strategy? Does that incline him to steal more bases than maybe he usually would, or out of his variance of how many times he makes that call? I think we'll see a lot more this week against the Brewers, who are better than the Pirates, and I guess that's a good transition to this week. Jacob, how many games are the Cubs going to win against the Milwaukee Brewers this week at Wrigley Field?
They're going to win another series. I'm calling 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3. Let's look at some of the probables here. On Tuesday, it's Chad Patrick going against Ben Brown. On Wednesday, it is Jake Misarowski.
He's the rookie. He had a no-hitter through 5-something innings against the Cardinals and then tweaked his ankle, but he should be ready to go. And I don't know if you've seen this dude, Blake. He's good. I mean, he's throwing 102, lively arm. That's going to be a fun one to watch.
So we got him on Wednesday going against Jameson Taillon. Both those games are at 7:05. And then on Thursday at 1:20, we got the Achilles heel of the Cubs, Freddie Peralta versus Cade Horton. So Horton's going to get another matchup against a really good pitcher to really just go bar for bar with him, band for band, inning for inning with another really good pitcher. The Brewers have been playing good baseball. I know they won 3 of 4 against the Cardinals, but even before that, they've won a couple series and strung together a couple good weeks of ball. What I need from the Cubs this week, it's not the end of the world if they lose 2 out of 3, because if they lose 2 out of 3, they're still 4.5 games up. 1, you can't get swept. Kind of goes without saying. Number 2, the Cubs need to show me that they're not who they were last year. You can't come out here and get beat on the margins by the Brewers. You can't come out here and lose the games from fundamental standpoints. The Cubs defense has been really good. I need them to keep playing really good. The Cubs have stolen bases in opportunistic times. I need them to keep doing that. I need them to manufacture runs. I know Marquis showed the stat on Thursday. I'll need to find it again. But I think the Cubs are averaging one less home run at home than they are on the road. So it's tough for the Cubs to score a lot of runs at home because they do hit the long ball. That's a big part of their offensive game. And if your anchors of this lineup, Kyle Tucker and Pete Crow Armstrong, are struggling, then those surrounding assets of Dansby Swanson, Ian Happ, Nico Horner, the pressure kind of beams on them a little more because people are like, well, this guy sucks. And why isn't he doing this? And why isn't he doing this? Well, when Kyle Tucker and PC are anchoring your lineup, you don't see what's under the curtain or behind the curtain. You don't see that stuff as much. But now that your anchors are struggling, we're seeing pressure on a lot of these other guys. Now, this week, if I had to predict, I think the Cubs lose this series. I think they're due for it. It'd be tough to see them win every series against the NL Central, although I would love to see it.
Would be fun.
And especially with this kid on Tuesday or on Wednesday, and then Freddie Peralta, who has just flat out owned the Chicago Cubs. He has a 2.60 ERA. The Cubs offense has a lot of they have a big challenge ahead of them. It's not going to be easy. They need this offense to flip around and start scoring runs in a big way again. But on the flip side, I think the Cubs pitching can do just as well against this Brewers lineup that I know Christian Yelich had a home run, I think, yesterday, and he's heated up just a tad. But this Brewers lineup isn't anything to write home about. I mean, that's why they're 5.5 games back behind us. That's why they struggled so much at the start, was because their offense wasn't putting together enough. So it will be interesting. Is there anything else that you're kind of looking forward to in this series, or anything that sticks out?
It's Mizraowski. This Wednesday game is big. It'll probably be the game that decides it because, like you said, Peralta owns the Cubs, and Horton is good. Don't get me wrong. Horton has been fantastic, and it's kind of the saying of you never want to be the smartest guy in the room. You always want to surround yourself with people that are better than you. Well, the schedule's doing a good job of facing Cade Horton up against some dogs every single start, and he's gone toe-to-toe with them, and he's been really impressive. Not that it probably, changes his performance whether he goes up against, Cy Young or Joe Schmo, but maybe it does. I don't know. We'd have to ask him. Either way, you trust all of our starters, but do you trust their starters a little bit more? Just don't get swept. I think you put it great. Just don't get swept. Win the series. And if you can, sweep. I mean, would be awesome. But they've played at Wrigley. The Cubs have played at Wrigley. I don't think the Brewers have been to Wrigley this year because they've only had one series against them in Milwaukee, which is the one with the PCA low home run and then the fan that just stood there and threw the baseball back. Which I can't wait to use that meme if the Cubs do win this series. But yeah, I mean, I think just you're going to have to go a little more small ball because the home runs are not going to be a big factor. The Brewers know how to small ball. That's what they do. They have the Brewers devil magic. They have the bloop hits. Like that is Brewers baseball is the 200 expected batting average. The Brewers are going to get a single on that. They're fast. They're sneaky. I think the devil magic's a great way to put it just because they're so frustrating because they're a good team no matter how much money they spend, even if they lose a Willy Adames who's not done great in San Francisco. San Francisco just got someone good. So that'll help. But really, they're a good team. Even if they're down in the standings, they're a good team. They're not someone to sleep on as much as they were lower in the standings to begin the year. So don't get swept, I think, is the biggest key. And I know I said that last time and I sound like a broken record, but I think that's the key to this season is just don't get swept and stay afloat. All teams are going to slump. I believe, and again, don't quote me on this, although I'm more confident in this than I am with the Joe DiMaggio, Lou Gehrig thing. I think the 2016 Cubs went 5-15 entering the All-Star break or something around there. So by no means am I saying that the Cubs should purposely go 5-15. Although if they do, I will be pushing that agenda. But it is okay if they struggle a little bit. It happens to all teams. Stay afloat and don't get rocked by somebody like the Milwaukee Brewers. Don't get rocked by the Pittsburgh Pirates, which they didn't, or the Seattle Mariners, who we have later this week, which will be a very fun matchup against more good starting pitching.
Yeah, so the offense has to figure it out figure out fast. But like you said, they're as long as they play clean baseball and don't get as long as they play clean baseball, this Cubs floor for their team is very high. And I think we'll see that this week. But should be a fun series, should be an interesting series. That's all I got on the Cubs. But before we close, I am curious, what are your Red Sox fans out there in the Cape League? What are their thoughts on Craig Breslow?
words that I cannot say on public air. And we'll talk about this a little bit tonight. Teaser, the Cubby Climb with Brett Bateman. We're going to live stream that tonight after the YD Red Sox have a game at home against the Bourne Braves. So check that out if you want. Yeah, no, when that broke, and again, I'll talk about this tonight, but I saw on my watch, I think it was your text that said Devers to the Giants. Wow. And I'm like, huh? And I'm based in Massachusetts right now, only about an hour, 60 miles from Boston. And so everybody around there's Red Sox fans. A lot of the, whether it's scouts or other writers sitting next to me, are Red Sox fans. And so they're like, wait, what? Nobody believed me. I mean, the place went silent. There was about 1,200 fans there, I would say. And very quickly, I think one guy yelled, Devers to the Giants. And mid-game, everyone's like silent. I mean, they announced it on the PA and everything. Like,
Oh, wow.
That's what they had us talk about on the post-game show. It was, for a minute, hey, YD just won 4-0. And then it was, but in bigger news, the hometown team just traded one of their biggest franchise stars ever. So they're not doing well. A lot of my closest friends, especially out here, are Red Sox fans. I've had to console them. I don't know if they'll show up today. They were up pretty late. I got one text. I said, how are you doing? And he said, it's 2 a.m. and I'm watching Rafael Dever TikToks just to console myself. And I was like, that's not going to do it. But
no, it's not.
Crazy. And I know we'll talk about it with Brett tonight and we'll break down the trade a little more. But wow, that's just wow. Baseball is the best. Baseball is the best. And I'm also saying this because it's not like involving us at all, with Cubs are not involved in this trade, but wow, baseball is the best. Baseball is so fun. I mean, sports in general, it captivated everybody on Twitter. It was another close to, I'm going to save that take for tonight's podcast, which you should check out tonight, live streaming at 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central Time, right here, wherever you're currently watching this, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, SoundCloud, all that. Anything that you're watching this on, we will be live streaming that tonight. So check that out. Follow the TikTok, follow the Instagram, follow everything at Cubs Insider. We got big things coming. The Cubs stay hot. We stay busy. More content, more fun for everybody.
Peace.
So, yeah, I think that's it. Thanks, guys.